Dayna Pink, you designed the costumes for Lovecraft Country, which is set during the 1950s in the Jim Crow era in America. But actually, the show encompasses a lot of different settings and styles over the course of the season. So what did you first think of the challenge of designing for a series that blends history with futuristic sci-fi, supernatural horror, and so many different elements?
That's a great question. To me, the draw of it, obviously the material was so important, but the idea as a costume designer of being able to go to all these different places and periods and times, it was so rich and juicy for me creatively. So it's not like repeating yourself over and over again. You're just reinventing all these different things. And so that was a really great challenge for us, and it just kept us on our toes the whole time and kept us interested the whole time and kept us excited and curious because everything was changing. We're used to the 50s, and then we're going to the 30s, then we're going to the 20s, then we're going to the future. So it was really juicy creatively.
And how different was this as a costume design kind of challenge and undertaking compared to work you've done in the past?
Well, this was the first time I've ever done a television series. So I haven't had the opportunity to journey with characters like this before, because when you're prepping a film, you're sort of prepping the whole thing at one time. So you're kind of having an idea in your head of the beginning, middle, and end of the story. So you're sort of prepping the whole thing. So with television and these 10 episodes, it kind of happens in real time. So you're fitting 1 or 2 episodes at a time. So you're actually seeing what they're becoming. And as they're evolving, you're evolving your idea of what they are with them. So it was a really great opportunity to be closer to the characters, I think, because you had a longer journey with them.
And getting to know these characters, costumes, they say the clothes make the man, and so costumes are very much a part of expressing a character's personality. And of course, with 10 episodes, you're getting many more chances to do that over spanning time. What was it like working with the actors on and with Misha Green on kind of establishing who these characters were with their looks?
Misha had a very definite idea of who everybody was, and she really helped shape our vision as well. And so, and she knew things, like what, you've seen it. And so it jumps around and a lot of different things happen. And so I would have moments where I'd be like, wait a minute, he's wearing this. Usually it's very straightforward, but I'd be like, he's going back to, and then he's in the fire. And what's he wearing in the fire? Wait, I'm not really sure. And so she would be like, no, it's from this episode. So she was so helpful and instrumental. And also she, I think, made me better at my job. I think she elevated my vision by, letting me go as far as I wanted to go. She never stopped us or pulled us back. She was like, if it's dope, it's a yes. She wasn't putting restraints on us or stopping us from, shooting for the stars, which was so nice. And it felt really supportive. It's the kind of thing where you never want to be on top of the story. Whereas you don't want the clothes to be something that they notice before they notice the people. We don't want to be crazy or do any costume jokes or do anything like that. But she allowed the clothes to shine, which was such a gift to us.
And on a show where you are telling a story that's set in history, but also has these fantastical elements in it, how much design was based in research into the era? How much freedom, as you said, you had a chance to kind of let the clothes speak? Was there a lot of freedom to kind of deviate, and what was that like?
I think there were some very important things that we touched on that we didn't want to play with. There were moments in history that were important, that they were portrayed realistically. Emmett Till's funeral is a good example of that, because that funeral, when we researched it, looked different then I would have pictured it not knowing. And so I wanted to be true to that. We think of funerals as everybody's wearing black and everyone's somber, but that's not what it was. People came from everywhere, and they came sort of as they were. There was a lot of white shirts. There were a lot of just, things from the period that weren't how we normally would think that they would wear to a funeral. And we really wanted to honor that. And so we didn't, play with those moments. But then there were other moments that were just about the period that we got to elevate the characters, and we got to really play around, because it wasn't about anything but what did Letty want to look like at the moment, and who does she show up as. And so we got to really play with her character, and we got to play with Ruby, and we got to create Christina and do all these different things that we kept true to the spirit of the period, but not the letter of the period.
And with so many characters, and a lot of times background characters, actors to work on with some of these episodes, was it mostly custom, made costumes, or was a lot of it sourced, or how did you work on that?
Well, I think they dressed about 4,500 background. So most of that was rented, bought. We would, we were on eBay, Etsy every day, boxes and boxes coming in. So that was mostly pre-existing. But then all the things for the characters, most of it was built. There were some pieces that were vintage that I would find that couldn't be replicated, that, there's no way to do them better. So we just wanted people to be able to wear these pieces from that time period, if possible. But a lot of the scenes, a lot of the things were, there's stunts and there's blood. And so you need more than one. So there's no way you're going to find two of the same thing from the period. So we made them, or something would, we'd fit something and we'd love the idea of it, but wouldn't it be better if it was in this color? Or wouldn't you like it if the sleeves were different? So we would just find things as inspiration and then recreate them, to suit our scenes and our characters.
And one of the episodes of the series that I think really encapsulates just how many places it can go is the episode I Am, for which you were nominated for a Costume Designers Guild Award, which, that episode takes Hippolyta to the past, to, the future, to outer space. What was that the most challenging episode, or the most creatively exciting episode, because of what a broad kind of spectrum it was?
Yes, that was. And then we went to Korea in 106. And so that was creatively amazing. And then we were in Tulsa. So they were all interesting and challenging. The I Am episode had the most changes and the most interesting places, but there was something about all of them that was really wonderful for us and challenging for us. And we, loved every single episode. They all brought different challenges to us. And I felt really lucky to be able to touch on all those different places and themes.
And there's also, one of the most memorable just single looks from the season was, the Topsy and Bopsy, spirits were haunting Diana, and those characters are so visually striking and so terrifying. What was it like, dressing those characters and making those come alive in the unreal, kind of unsettling way that they did?
Those characters, those dresses were supposed to be made out of potato sacks, but because we wanted them to move in a certain way, we actually used silk that we printed onto to make them look like a potato sack, and aged it down and made it really soft and flowy. So it looked like it was just a cut up piece of sack, but it actually wasn't. It was something completely created.
And another character who is unsettling, but in a much different way, is Christina. who really is contrasted with the rest of the characters in that, like, she embodies this kind of wealth and privilege. And, you know, was it, what kind of experience was it like dressing Abby Lee as that character, working with her and kind of creating that sense of who she was separate from, these other characters on the canvas?
Abby was wonderful. We had a great time creating looks for her. The one thing that we really did differently with her is we made her very sharp. Her edges were sharp. Her fabrics were crispy. Pieces stood out. So most of my other characters you want to touch. Atticus's t-shirts you want to touch. Even Ruby's dresses were softer. There was something about their palettes. There was something about the fabrics that we used that had some drape to them that seemed very inviting. And we beautiful, high fashion, but you don't want to touch those fabrics. You just want to sort of observe her. You don't necessarily want to touch her. So that was something that we on purpose did was make her harsher and her edges harder than the other characters.
And you mentioned, the Meet Me in Daegu episode, which takes us back to the Korean War, and how, a departure it was from other episodes, and like how much, work went into that, and what were, some of your favorite looks and ideas to explore in that.
Dressing Jamie was amazing. And she let us go crazy also. We had such a fun time creating them because they were also very much grounded in the spirit of the time. There was a woman that was working with us who was there to, kind of make sure that everything was, proper as to the period and as to what was happening at that time there. And, we came up with these jumpsuit pant ideas. And she said, it wasn't exactly what they were doing, but she said it was in the spirit of what was happening. So it was kind of okay. We wanted to be respectful to the place and the time and the people, and yet we still wanted to be creative and do our own thing. And so that was the idea of the pants and the jumpsuits, and we created the handbags that were, out of fabrics that not necessarily were traditional at that time, but sort of, again, in the spirit of that. So we really had a great time creating it. We made all of it, all the mother's clothes, all the clothes for Jamie. And, obviously there was a bunch of uniforms that we didn't make all of that, but really all the civilian clothes we made from that episode, except for one vintage dress, which is what she wore when the episode starts, when she's sitting in the movie theater. It was like a sailor's dress, which was actually vintage from the period.
And one of the most ambitious episodes of the season in every regard was the episode that takes us back to Tulsa, Rewind 1921. Was that especially a lot of work, because there's a lot of characters flashing back several decades? What was that experience like?
Yes, that was another huge challenge with all the extras walking through the streets. That was amazing. And I had a wonderful team that dressed all the extras for us. And so we had families and people. And the fun thing about dressing extras is you're deciding, who are these people? This is a little group. This is the family. Here's two guys walking together. They're workers. They're coming from this place, coming from that. So we had all these wonderful extras there, which was fantastic. And then we had all our heroes, but they really only had one main outfit. We just had so many multiples because of there's fire and there's all these, stunts that happen. So all the episodes were challenging. That one wasn't more so than others. It was just, what were we doing? We had to pull all different clothes for all the extras because it was a completely different time period than the others. But that was really a fun, challenging episode. Yeah.
And do you envision a lot of backstory to, when you think of a character's clothes in a particular scene, like, because every single thing a person wears has a history, in their lives. Clothes are very intimate in that way. So do you imagine that sort of thing with any particular looks, like, in order to inspire, that a particular design?
I mean, that's what our job is, right? That's what we do with every outfit, every time that we think of something, that we, figure out what someone's wearing. Where did they get it? Why are they wearing it? How do they feel that day? What are they trying to say to the world? So yeah, I think we do that all the time, down to Atticus's t-shirts, very simple, very clean, not showy or flashy, but perfect for him. Where did he get those t-shirts? Why is he wearing that? What is he thinking and feeling? It's just simple t-shirt, jeans, but it is never simple. It speaks about him, I think.
Well, I want to congratulate you on all the work you did on Lovecraft Country this past season, and your costume design guild nomination. Fingers crossed, Emmy nomination, maybe later this season. And thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.